Hey guys, this is Luminous and you're watching Guide on Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage or AM is one of the most versatile carry in the game due to his ability to adapt to different game states. His skill sets allow him to reliably survive ganks, farm faster than most other carries, and even participate in fights before finishing his full inventories. Though not a particularly difficult hero to play mechanically, playing a successful Anti-Mage requires good understanding of hero's movement as well as ability to adapt to different situations. Mana Break is an extraordinarily handy skill throughout all stages of the game. In terms of mana burning, several hits from Anti-Mage can render most heroes from casting any spells, especially those with long casting animations. The larger benefit of Mana Break is the extra 38 physical damage dealt against heroes with mana, which roughly translates to 2 extra broadsword worth of damage. This gives AM a ton of early game damage to decimate heroes in lane, where Choppa supports with relative ease to net early kills. Despite being a static passive, Mana Break remains effective well into late game thanks to AM's natural high attack speed and item choices. However, it's important to note that enemies with magical immunity will block the extra damage granted by Mana Break, making it one of the worst passive against a BKB carry in the late game. Impressive damage and magic, Mana Break is a fearsome passive. Blink's the backbone of Anti-Mage's entire skill set, and it's an invaluable spell in both offensive and defensive aspects of the game. Though Blink's a very simple spell, there are multiple factors to be taken into consideration. Blink has a casting time of 0.4 seconds, and although that doesn't sound like much, instant cast disables such as Scythe of Ice or Orchid can easily disable Blink and prevent Anti-Mage from escaping. Secondly, Blink can be used to disjoint projectile spells or attack. The timing to successfully perform a dodge differs with each spell, and some spells cannot be disjointed at all. Thirdly, since AM's mana pool isn't impressive, getting mana burn or getting caught out without the 60 mana to Blink is often fatal for Anti-Mage. Lastly, Ensnare and Tango based spells such as Naga's Ensnare, Spear Bear's Entangle, or Crystal Maiden's Frostbite will prevent Blink for the duration of the spell. Becoming over-reliant on Blink against these types of spells often spells death for Anti-Mage. Despite the shortcoming of Blink, it still helps AM to escape ganks, accelerate farm, and chase endlessly, making it one of the best utility spells in the entire game. Combining a max spell shield and Anti-Mage's natural 25% hero magic reduction, Anti-Mage will have a 62.5% magic reduction, making him capable of resisting the deadliest of burst damage casters. Keep in mind that percentage reductions works best with a healthy HP pool, and with impressive armor and magic resistance, focusing on raw HP is often the best way to maximize AM's survivability. Mana Void is the reason why Anti-Mage could pick up more kills than other carries even before finishing his core set of items. Synergizing greatly with Mana Break, it deals more damage for more points of missing mana on the target. Always quickly check on the enemy's current mana pool before using Mana Void, as it becomes an expensive mini-stun when used improperly. In combination with a low 600 cast range and a cast time of 0.33 for Mana Void, AM often need to blink next to the target to prevent enemies from juking and fogging the ultimate. As an extension to blinking before using the ultimate, Anti-Mage could often get off an extra attack or two before unleashing Mana Void, thereby increasing Mana Void's overall damage output. Mana Void's mini-stun goes through magical immunity, giving Anti-Mage an option to cancel any type of channeling spells. Lastly, be aware that Mana Void deals splash damage in a 300 AoE around the target. Though the AoE is rather small, targeting a hero with a large mana pool will often result in a surprising multi-kill against the enemy team. With these points in mind, let's take a quick look on Anti-Mage's normal skill build. As usual, it is optimal to max a spell that grants the highest damage output first. In this case, it's Mana Break. Mana Break scales decently in lane and is useful even at low levels. Blink at level 1 and Spell Shield at level 4 gives Anti-Mage the most efficient defensive build. Lowering the cooldown of Blink to 6 seconds is vital for Anti-Mage's mobility and survivability, so it will be the second spell to max. Against a team full of physical damage dealers, Anti-Mage is often outclassed as his Mana Break cannot keep up with enemies' damage output, and his Spell Shield is lackluster in effectiveness. As such, adjusting the skill build by prioritizing on stats and then Blink is important for Anti-Mage to stay on par in terms of damage output and HP against enemy carries. Remember that Anti-Mage's skill build is very fluid and can change up easily depending on how the game is unfolding, so be sure to alter the skill build accordingly. Despite being a carry hero, Anti-Mage could single-handedly drive opposing carries or supports out of the lane with high levels of Mana Break and Blink. Due to the amount of regeneration and damage block items that Anti-Mage buys, he can trade hits with enemies and often come far ahead thanks to Mana Break. Most melee and even some low damage range heroes simply have to retreat from Anti-Mage if he's playing aggressive enough. Enemies that underestimate the damage potential against Mana Break will easily die to a blink or two even in the opening minutes of the game. After the laning stage, Anti-Mage adjusts his game to what is thrown at him by the enemy team. Most carry have a one-dimensional goal of getting to the late game as soon as possible. However, due to the high damaging nature of Mana Break and Mana Void, Anti-Mage can act as a powerful semi-carry and take his team into fights against aggressive teams with enough survivability items. This scenario isn't too common, and oftentimes Anti-Mage will play the standard farm and carry game, but when the situation arises, adjusting is paramount to winning the game. Depending on the state of the game, Anti-Mage farms in different areas of the map. Should the enemy team be ganking aggressively, sticking to the jungle and even ancient camps could net Anti-Mage a lot of gold. Should the enemy team be engaging in teamfights, Anti-Mage could counter-push and pressure different lanes with his fast creep clearing abilities. Normally, Anti-Mage farms both the lane and the jungle, and as an opening presents itself, such as a successful teamfight happening on the opposite ends of the map, Anti-Mage could bring further momentum by knocking down exterior towers. Keep in mind that if Anti-Mage is left alone, he's one of the fastest pusher in the entire game with a Battle Fury. This alone allows Anti-Mage to apply pressure upon enemy towers to relieve pressure from your own towers. Because Anti-Mage can farm a wide area of the map and in theory stay alive against ganks, his farm rate will take him well into the late game before the enemy carries have great items. Take advantage of the farm disparity by leading your team into critical tower pushes or Roshan engagements and take control of the game. Lastly, as a carry hero with great survivability, keep in mind that Anti-Mage could create farm for his teammates as well. By farming the more dangerous lanes or dangerous areas of the map, Anti-Mage could offer up lanes with safer farm for the team's other carries. Before the very late stages of the game, Anti-Mage's survivability is always in question. Despite having Blink, Spell Shield, and high armor gain, his HP pool is extremely weak. Furthermore, Anti-Mage's mana pool is also quite weak in supporting multiple usages of Blink, especially against teams that could drain away his mana. Lastly, Anti-Mage relies on his low base attack time in dealing physical hits, so a number of attack speed increasing items will be preferred as well. There are quite a few gaps to fill, and careful item selection is a must to shore up the deficiency of Anti-Mage. In addressing Anti-Mage's survivabilities, there are several item selections to choose from. Damage block, although not absolutely necessary, is extremely preferred in the early stages of the game, and choosing between Stout Shield or a Poor Man's Shield depends on how much harassment Anti-Mage is facing. Against ultra-aggressive lanes, a quick triangle boost generally does the trick and helps out greatly in jungling much later on. Mid-game survivability items include Strength Shreds and Vanguard, or simple Vitality Booster if the HP is all Anti-Mage is after. The late-game survivability items include the usual Heart or Blacking Bar, and of course a Manta Style for its debuffing of various silences and entangle-based spells. The important note about survivability item is that Anti-Mage will need different sets of survival gear depending on who he's facing against, so there's no single defective item of choice here. Damage item-wise, Battle Fury and Manta Style are both common choices for Anti-Mage. Battle Fury's Cleave, coupled with a Crawling Blade and a 6-second cooldown of Blink, allows Anti-Mage to be one of the fastest farmer in the entire game. Going from neutral camps to lanes, Anti-Mage could clear waves of creeps and do so while being on the move, meaning that he's far less susceptible to ganks. It's not uncommon to take only minutes to farm up thousands of gold with the Battle Fury. Still, keep in mind that Battle Fury contributes very little to the survivability of Anti-Mage, and it isn't a core item in every single game. On the other hand, Manta Style offers modest raw damage and health for Anti-Mage, and intangibles such as attack speed increase, movement speed increase, creating illusions that could also mana break, as well as granting the ability to debuff many lethal disables, making it one of the most important items for Anti-Mage to pick up. Lastly, late game item extension for Anti-Mage are often dependent on what the enemy carries have. Butterfly is a well-rounded choice as it offers both large damage increase and survivability through its armor and evasion. Monkey King Bar is another good choice against enemy carries with evasion abilities and items. And finally, Basher and Abyssal Blade cannot be forgotten as its ability to bash pierces through magical immunity and is very important to stop fleeting heroes in their tracks. Depending on the overall aggressive nature of the enemy team, Anti-Mage needs to adjust his item build to compensate. Aggressive pushing teams often do not give Anti-Mage enough time to farm for a Battle Fury, or fully take advantage of Battle Fury's farm acceleration. In situations like these, prioritize on early game survivability through Vanguard or Vitality Booster, as well as picking up a Vladimir's offering to contribute early game damage and armor to the team. Though not the ideal late game item choices, these items can be extremely vital to survive the early game pushing onslaught of the enemy team and make it to the late game. Anti-Mage is a versatile carry in his item choices, and he could adjust to most game states as long as you could see it coming. Contrary to popular belief, Anti-Mage is far from being an auto-win hero. As a carry, he has one of the weakest defensive stat growth in the game, and fails to go toe-to-toe against many other carries with the same items. Despite that, Anti-Mage is a frequently seen hero in the competitive scene for his ability to adapt, as well as the problem that his mobility could create for the enemy team. Anti-Mage has the ability to take the fights to the enemy team 20 minutes in the game with a Vanguard of Vlads, or grind out an hour-long game with a Battle Fury and Manta style. The most important aspect of playing a successful Anti-Mage is utilizing the degree of versatility that this hero offers. Don't be constricted by a single build or a set of items, and learn to adapt to different situations at hand. Thanks for watching, and have fun blinking and slamming. As always, I hope you guys found this guy useful. My next guy will be on the tanky strength hero, Axe. If you guys missed my Ancient Apparition guide, you can click here to check it out. Or if you want to watch all of the guides, here's a link to the entire playlist. As usual, if you want to support me and see more of these guys, liking the video and subscribing to me is the way to go. That's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This is Loomis, signing off to you guys.